Rant exclusive.
A whistleblower complaint from a current corrections officer at the King County Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention, that's the King County Jail. This whistleblower claims that the agency, under the director, Alan Nance, along with the Human Resources Department at the DAJD, knowingly hired more than 100 corrections officers whose visas were expired or otherwise invalid, which puts their certification at risk under state law and calling into question the integrity of the county's hiring process. The Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission, the WSCJTC, they have confirmed receipt of this complaint. On top of that, an independent source with direct knowledge of this issue tells me that preliminary data suggests that the number of questionable hires could exceed 100. We're talking about corrections officers. And right now, the complaint is in the initial review phase. There's no timeline yet that's been presented as to how long it's going to take to complete. However, right before coming on the air today, we got an updated statement from the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission saying that it has, quote, and this is since my article came out this morning at seattlered.com, quote, "We immediately expelled 4 King County Corrections Academy recruits after King County confirmed they did not meet eligibility requirements." Uh-oh. That's not good. That's not good at all. Because if they made it to become a recruit and the King County Department of Adult and Juvenile Services didn't quite catch that they might not have been legally allowed to be employed, something tells me some of the recruits who went through the whole process and are now working with the county might face decertification as well. Now, on top of the complaint that was filed, I got a hold of this letter that was sent by an anonymous officer who cited in his complaint. I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she. I don't know. I legitimately have no clue who this is. But the officer cited extreme fear of retaliation for speaking up. And this person alleges that the DAJD, the King County Jail, quote, has hired corrections officers whose work visas were expired or otherwise invalid. This is in direct violation of an RCW, which permits only U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and individuals covered under DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, to be certified as corrections officers in the state of Washington. The scale of this problem cannot be overstated. It is estimated that well over 100 corrections officers currently employed may fall into this questionable status. Some estimates place the number closer to 130 officers. If the WSCJTC, the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission, revokes their certifications, these individuals would be unable to continue serving as corrections officers. The loss of this many staff would place the county's jail system on the brink of collapse, with the very real possibility of forcing the closure of a jail due to unsafe staffing levels. And this whistleblower goes on to rip into Director Nance and his, quote, extreme inability to effectively run our jails, and writes that, quote, his apparent disregard for compliance with state law, public safety in King County has been put at unacceptable risk. Now, I reached out to Director Nance's office. Crickets so far. No statement responding. They did get my email. They got back to me and said, oh, your email went to spam. Do you have the complaint? I sent over the complaint. And then we get word that, oops, we had to immediately suspend 4 of the recruits. I suspect a lot more are coming. And I suspect that because I spoke with a source who has direct knowledge of what's alleged in this complaint. And this person tells me a ton of recent hires, all of which apparently are Africans, as in they're from Africa or different countries, right? Some of them openly admit they might not have the correct legal status in order to work at the King County Jail. Now, I'm presuming every single one of them wants to actually work, and they went through the process to get certified outside of, checking their background. And I'm presuming these are honest, hardworking individuals, and I certainly credit them for wanting to do this job. We've talked many times over the course of the last couple of years of the staffing crisis, specifically at the King County Jail with corrections officers. It's been awful. It's been absolutely awful. I credit them for wanting to work. However, it would appear that they might be working illegally. And if it's anywhere close to 100 or 130, this jail not only is in shambles, but no one in the HR department nor the director should have that job after the investigation comes out. If it turns out even a handful, I would argue that the 4 that were just decertified or at least suspended is reason enough for HR, every single person there who had anything to do with this, to lose their jobs. Because I suspect this is intentional. And maybe pre-2019 with the Keep Washington Working Act passed, the sanctuary status, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, me saying I think it's intentional would be unfair. It's like, Jason, you don't have any proof of that. You don't have any proof of that now. It's true. But we do live in a county that goes out of its way to protect illegal immigrants, say that they should stay here, even when they're criminal. And so it strains credulity for me to assume that they didn't know what it was that they were doing and they didn't think that they could just simply get away with this. And it took a whistleblower to stand up and say something. If these numbers are accurate, staff levels in this jail system already stretched thin would mean this workforce would have to go back to restrictions on bookings because of unsafe working conditions, which wouldn't benefit anybody. And that, again, is a direct failure of Director Nance, if true. And I would even say, I'm not going to put this on the current King County executive because it's not Shannon Braddock's fault, but I wonder how much Dow Constantine had a hold of this, knew what was going on. And it is up not to the Washington State Commission to certify the background, make sure that these people are legally allowed to work in this country. That's not up to them. It's actually up to King County jails, a system I didn't actually know. I thought it was up to the state commission. It's not. They changed the law a while ago. This is not a good look. This is not a good look. Now, the next part of this process is that the commission reviews the complaint. They determines whether or not they're going to investigate further. I have to assume, based on the suspension of the 4 recruits, they're probably going to say, yeah, there's probably something here. We better investigate. I don't know how we don't investigate this. If they issue a statement of charges against officers, those officers have 60 days to request a hearing. Otherwise, default revocation may occur. Now, King County, at least the King County Jail leadership and HR team, they need to provide some answers here. And they could hide behind, well, there's an investigation going on. We're going to let it move through. Okay, fair enough. What about the 4 that were decertified? You owe us a conversation, at least on that. I'd like a statement. I'd like a statement. Now, I've got this entire story up at seattlered.com. If you want to know the kinds of stories we cover at seattlered.com, it's not just all opinion. This is an exclusive report. This is exclusive. The kind of exclusive that will get picked up elsewhere eventually. They might not credit us for breaking this story, but this will get picked up elsewhere. That's how big of a deal this is. But in the meantime, so we're putting at least a little bit of pressure on local media outlets to cover this important story. I need you all to go to seattlered.com, click on the story, and share the story. You can't miss it. It's right there on the front page. Share it on X and Facebook and LinkedIn. people have to know this is happening. If you really want to make sure that this investigation is fair and honest at the state level, because I could certainly see how this commission might want to cover all of this up because it's a very bad look, and they're probably just as woke. I know they're just as woke there as they are at the King County Jail. People need to be aware of this story and start spreading it. So please head on over to seattlered.com. I've got not just the story, but I also have the full complaint. Remember yesterday I yelled at them for not sending me the complaint even though they knew I had it?
Mm-hmm.
You know how I said I sent that nasty email?
Yep.
Yeah, I got a response early this morning before work hours. So they understood what it was I was saying. And that makes me feel good because I felt a little bad about sending the nasty email for about 5 seconds, which is a lot for me to feel bad for. But them responding the way that they did indicated I was right. Because you talk to me the way I talk to some people who screwed me over, I would just out of spite slow roll everything. But they didn't this time, and I appreciate that. Kudos to them. But this story right now is up at seattlered.com, so please check it out.